switching to Michael Penix specifically and not getting him out there to have any live reps today, I'm curious what else went into that process.
We've seen enough last week of Michael Penix and the live stuff. We give him a bunch of live stuff out there in practice. We feel really good where we're at with Michael. We feel really good where we're at with the other guys that we set, and we treated that the same way. But Mike showed us last week enough that we don't have to play him in the preseason.
Michael Penix Jr. being selected 8th overall was probably the biggest headline of this NFL offseason. The pick just really made the Falcons front office seem entirely dysfunctional with no clear plan. Not because Penix isn't worthy of a top 10 pick, we'll find that out once we see him in a regular season game, but because the move makes no sense following signing Kirk Cousins in March. Signing Cousins, a veteran quarterback that you're comfortable giving $100 million of guaranteed money to, signaled that the Falcons were in win now mode. So why wouldn't you use the 8th overall pick on someone to upgrade your team right now? Wide receiver Rome Odunze was sitting right there for them to take. No defensive players had been taken yet, so you had your pick of the litter there. But no, they went for quarterback, the one position they seemingly had already addressed this offseason. The Falcons tried to justify signing Penix Jr. by saying, well, we don't plan to ever be picking this high again. But here's the thing. If you need to move up to get a quarterback in the future, you can. There's nothing to stop you from doing that. The 49ers traded all the way up to the 3rd overall pick in 2021 to get Trey Lance. The Chiefs moved all the way from the 27th overall pick all the way to the 10th pick to go get Patrick Mahomes in 2017. So it's not like you're locked into whatever pick your record earns you. And don't get me wrong, I definitely get the logic of drafting a quarterback and having them sit behind a veteran for a year. Both the quarterbacks I just mentioned, Trey Lance and Patrick Mahomes, did exactly that. For the Falcons, if the plan was to sit Penix Jr. for a year, why the hell would you sign Kirk Cousins to a big contract? Why not sign a cheaper bridge quarterback like Joe Flacco, Gardner Minshew, Sam Darnold, all of whom were available, held Drew Lock even? That would have cost you a lot less money that you could have spent addressing other positions on the team. But okay, fine, let's think this through for a moment. So your plan is for Michael Penix Jr. to develop and learn behind Kirk Cousins. Why the hell isn't he getting all of the preseason snaps you can get him? What's going on here? Because if the plan is to develop him, this is when you can do it. This is when he can get consequence-free NFL reps. Something isn't adding up about what the Falcons are doing here. There's something really fishy about this sequence of events for the Falcons. Either they are extremely dysfunctional with no clear plan on how they plan to develop Penix, or they're hiding something. So the conspiracy theorist in me starts connecting the dots. Here's what we know. Kirk Cousins is coming off of a torn Achilles. The Falcons made a seemingly irrationally high draft pick, especially if Kirk is healthy. The Falcons are being overly cautious with Michael Penix Jr. just days after J.J. McCarthy suffered a season-ending injury. As Kevin Bacon once famously said, those are the facts of the case, and they are indisputable. So I've come up with two possibilities of why this would make sense. Possibility number one, Kirk Cousins isn't a sure thing for week one. His Achilles isn't fully healed, and the Falcons are worried he won't be ready. In that case, they don't want to risk Michael Penix Jr. getting hurt, because if Cousins isn't available and Penix isn't available, well, then they're stuck starting Taylor Heineke, and we all remember how the Heineke-Ritter season went last year. Possibility number two, and this one is more likely in my opinion, the Falcons didn't realize how good Penix was until after they signed Kirk Cousins. After signing Cousins, they started scouting quarterbacks that were going to be in this draft, because they were probably thinking, like, if somebody falls to us in the second round, or if we have a chance to trade back into the first round for a guy that falls and we're willing to do it, let's at least know what these quarterbacks are so that we know if we want to make that move for them or not. Then they watched Penix Jr.'s film and fell in love. Why they didn't do this before signing Kirk Cousins, God only knows. Why they didn't watch him as he led the Huskies all the way to the national championship game, no idea. But for some reason, the Falcons took way too long to evaluate Penix, and once they did, they decided they had to have him. Now, here's where the J.J. McCarthy piece comes in, and why I mentioned him earlier. What I've gathered from Kevin O'Connell's press conferences is that the Vikings had a plan to slow roll McCarthy into the season. They had a plan that if Sam Darnold got off to a slow start, or if Darnold was even just mediocre, at some point this year they were going to put JJ McCarthy in. Now that McCarthy's out for the year, that plan goes out the window. Can't do that. It's Sam Darnold all year. If the Falcons had a similar plan for Michael Penix Jr., and then they watched as JJ McCarthy just took a season-ending injury, that would explain why suddenly they go, you know what? We're not going to risk Penix Jr. getting hurt, because our plan is that if Kirk gets off to a slow start, if Kirk isn't fully ready, or if Kirk is just mediocre and we need excellent quarterback play, we're going to put Penix Jr. in at some point this year. Here's the most likely explanation overall, because as most are, conspiracy theories are significantly less likely than the simplest explanation. The simplest explanation is usually the right explanation. And the simplest explanation is Falcons don't have a plan. They don't really know what they're doing. They're shooting from the hip, making it up as they go. They're a mess. And the Terry Fontenot, Raheem Morris regime is looking like it might be over sooner rather than later.